I'm Ray Wheeler and I'm the Sales Geek for Central and North Hertfordshire. Okay, so before Sales Geek, I've been a sales leader for probably the last, God, it makes me feel old saying it, 30 plus years in lots of different companies, mainly the corporate sector. I was Vice President of Sales for about 5 years for Sony, DADC. And prior to that I worked in media, advertising sales for about 15 years, and then had the pleasure of basically being an MD for 2 or 3 different startup companies to help them scale. And then I was at a crossroads and saw an advert for Sales Geek, and I thought, well, I didn't really want to go back into the kind of corporate sector. And then had one phone call, then come up to meet the guys at the bunker many moons ago, just under 3 years ago now, and I've not looked back since. Best decision I ever made. What stood out to me for Sales Geek was, I think, just the brand, which I thought was really, really cool. Loved the idea that there was lots of tried and tested content, not just for our kind of Your Sales Director product, but also for the sales training as well. But also just being part of a tribe, being part of a family where everybody gets to share. You know, there are other companies where, you know, I don't hear so many positive things, where they're part of a group or they're part of a franchise. Complete opposite with Sales Geeks. Always felt like you're part of the family. And so they were some of the key reasons why, it was an obvious choice for me. My professional life, how has it changed since I became Sales Geek? Wow, it's completely changed. Obviously now I get the opportunity to work with anywhere between kind of 15 and 20 different businesses every month. Called a lot of those on our retainer, so I act as a fractional sales director for many of them. Whereas before, obviously, you're only ever working for one company. So the work is much more varied, but without a shadow of a doubt, the main thing, and the thing that's really changed in terms of my professional outlook, is how much I enjoy it. It actually doesn't feel like work as it used to years ago when working for one company. And I think that's down to just the praise from the business owners that you get and helping them to accelerate their business. And it just becomes much more meaningful. I always say to my friends, I'm not a doctor, so it's not like I'm saving lives, but we are helping businesses to grow and scale. And the feeling that we get for doing that when we've been successful, as we are, is just enormous. And I never had that kind of, sense of satisfaction in any job up until now. So that's the key reason. I'd say that's equally massive too. One of my biggest kind of pet hates was going to meetings about meeting and spending lots of time internationally, as a previous sales director in other firms. And now I get to work in my local area, so it's much more effective, which means I get more time to spend with my family and friends, but also I get to choose, not all the time, but mainly I get to choose the clients that I work with. I get to choose the hours that I work, and so for me, my whole work-life balance has become much better for me since I was a geek. Do it, first of all. Yeah, absolutely do it. All my friends, family will tell you it's the best decision I've ever made. Like many of the people that become geeks, I've worked for lots of different companies, either as a sales director or MD of different businesses. It's transformational. It's like I've never looked back. I've only ever looked forwards. I would grasp it with 2 hands and say yes every time for anybody that's keen to join. And I know that sounds like I'm trying to sell it to you, but I'm not. It's just based on my own sense of satisfaction since joining Geek just under 3 years ago. So best thing, do it immediately. So since I've been a geek, I've had the pleasure of working with probably 60 to 70 different companies, and that's just under 3 years. Some of those have had the benefit of working with myself and Geek as a fractional sales director, anywhere between kind of half a day and 2 days. And there's been lots of success. In fact, I was looking at some stats just recently about the last kind of 20 or 30 clients over the last 2 years. Some of those are still with me, so that's like longer than 2 years. And in that tenure, on average, most of them had seen, or majority, or the average had seen at least a 37% increase in their business. Now, if we base that on, let's just say 1 day a month as their fractional sales director, it meant a return on investment of in excess of 600%, which is just like mental. But there are 3 businesses that I've been working with who all started on certain levels that have seen anywhere between kind of 75% and 100% growth. So the one that I was working with, which was like a marketing agency, just a one-man band at the time, and now employs about 4 or 5 people, was on about £250,000 turnover a year. They're almost like on £500,000 now. Another business that was on about 500, 600,000 a year, we're now probably going to do something like 1.3 million this year. And that's a consultancy business. So again, quite varied. And then there's a third one, which has almost doubled their turnover since we've been working together as well. So lots of different successes from being their fractional sales director. But the other thing I've noticed is that those that have even partaked in some of the sales superchargers that I run locally, those that have partaked in the YST and the sales training that we offer, they've all seen different forms of increases in conversions. Sometimes it can be from typically taking their sales conversions from, let's say, 30% up to maybe 60, 65, 70%. But on average, everybody always sees an increase. So it's so rewarding, and it's so great to have that variation across lots of different businesses. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on in my local county of Hertfordshire. So yeah, all good. So in terms of what being a sales geek involves, I said the job has evolved since I first became Sales Geek. So in those first few months, it's quite different to how it is now. But you don't have any clients to deliver work for immediately. So your time is spent, particularly I would say in the first kind of 3 to 4 months, just networking, joining your local BNI or your Chamber of Commerce, going to the opening of pretty much any business show that exists, looking at your little black book, looking to network as much as you can. And then there's a transition that I would say probably happens anywhere from kind of 4 months to then that first year, where you start doing some delivery, and then you have to decide, of course, which marketing events you continue to go to. But it's never, a day is never dull as a sales geek. In terms of what I do for clients, I always refer to it as kind of helping them with the 4 Ps. So as good sales directors, we're helping people kind of enhance their process. So that would be the first P. There can be 101 different things going on in any one sales process, so we try and work on that to enhance it at 4 very key stages. We'll help them with their proposition, so everybody should have a clear and concise value proposition, helping them to identify who their kind of ideal customer profile is, and working quite clearly on enhancing the proposition. The third P, which of course is a very important one, is people. So anybody that they have working in their organisation that either touches sales, or even if they don't officially have a sales title, we'll look at what it is that they say and do in front of customers. And the fourth one is looking at product and pricing, and basically helping them to enhance their offering. I always say there are 3 channels to success for my businesses that I work with, and some companies that are really good do maybe 1 or 2 of those. If we can get all 3 flying, and that's like enhance your inbound process, have a good outbound strategy. A lot of clients that I've worked with have never really had an outbound strategy. They just make the most of trying to do work with those that where they get referred, or they have a good marketing engine where they've got lots of inbound. So perfecting your inbound, working on a good outbound strategy, and then thirdly is working with clients that you've worked with in the past, so to become a little bit more proactive with your account management. And it's those 3 that I find tick and can take a good company into greatness if you get all 3 correct. So in terms of how we typically help business grow, most important thing first of all is to identify what success looks like. So I always want to check that the business owner that I'm working with does in fact have a goal. and then we'll help put together a strategy that will help them to achieve that. For me, there are so many good businesses that kind of get to where they want to get to almost by fluke, and then they look at success as, oh yeah, actually not been a bad quarter, whatever. So rather than letting the market dictate or outside influences dictate stuff, we're putting measurable actions that I would then help them implement, and to ensure that they get to where they want to get to in terms of their numbers. Challenges that we solve, yeah, I mean, they're varied. Like I mentioned before, the reason why I refer to like the 4 Ps is often that's where people's challenges exist. It can be that they haven't really got a proper process that's working for them. It might be that certain parts of their process, their sales process, i.e. the things that they do from the moment they get an inquiry to the point where it becomes a customer. Maybe certain things within the process work, but there are things that we could always do to enhance. And challenges with people, we're all expert trainers that have been endorsed by the Institute of Sales Professionals as well, so that helps. And yeah, we work with a lot of people, not necessarily those that have sales positions, but those that have got customer facing roles but don't necessarily have a sales title. And yeah, we're there to help them, make the most out of strong connections, and yeah, basically get on with clients better so that they can sell more and advance their own sales within their business. So if anybody's looking for a really, really exciting opportunity in Central and North Hertfordshire, I'm now looking for 1 or 2 or even 3 new colleagues to join the success that I've had being a sales geek in Central and North Hertfordshire. And essentially that's what we call our solo franchise. So it's an opportunity where you get to work with local businesses, helping them with sales mentoring, helping them with training, and yeah, really exciting opportunity to basically own your own business, work the hours that you want to work, but you would have my full support because I started the business in Central and North Hertfordshire just under 3 years ago, and we work with some amazing businesses. So if you'd like to find out more about this opportunity, please get in touch.